It was a random night on Twitter. The football club was being offered out for free. We're now a 7-figure agency. We're in the game now, if that makes sense. 10 years ago, if you'd asked and said you guys would be a 7-figure agency, like I would have put your hand off for it. Now it's like we've got bigger visions, and you know that's not all what it's about.
I'm here again with one of my rich friends. Someone I've known a long time. So for the people that don't know you, bro, introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, so Terrell McLeod Bentley, co-founder at Soccer Assist and also Varsity 9. So we run and help players get scholarships to the US. So Varsity 9, we're a sports management agency.
Another business?
Yeah, so it's like
That's greedy, bro. How greedy? How is it? Is one not enough, bro? Is one not enough?
So no, effectively, it's almost like two similar agencies as such,
Okay.
Soccer Assist and Varsity 9. So Varsity 9 is more focused on like the elite athletes, guys that are coming out of like Premier League, Championship clubs, looking at how we can obviously service them. It's very different to someone that's coming out of like non-league or grassroots, what they're looking for from the experience. And then obviously for us, like the aim was always to expand out from soccer into other sports. So obviously through Varsity 9 now we've started track and field, swimming, field hockey, golf, and we'll obviously keep expanding on other sports as we kind of go along. So yeah, it's just another vehicle for us to kind of continue leveling up and obviously pushing along the journey of what we're trying to do, because we don't just want to be seen as like a scholarship agency. There's obviously a lot more things that we want to do in the world of sport, man. So yeah, it was just another vehicle that can help us get to where we want to get to, man.
That's amazing. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So obviously you've been running Soccer Assist for a very long time. Obviously that's where I know you from. So how long has Soccer Assist been going for?
So initially, Soccer Assist started back in 2014. So it's 10 years this year. In fact, it's mad. But the idea was obviously conceived from when myself and my co-founder Junior went over to the US on scholarships many moons ago. And I think from like going through the experience, like seeing how other agencies done it, and just felt like there was just a lack of support. And there was also like room to innovate and do things a lot better. And after having conversations with him and other international players that were over at our university, it was like, well, let's try and do something about it. Let's try and see if we can create a service that's a lot more better. And that was a kind of starting point, man. And then we had like a £100 bet in our dorm room, and it was literally just kind of figure it out, make it happen, get started. As you know, you've got to be scrappy at the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's amazing in terms of like what we've been able to achieve over the last 10 years. But yeah, it started from our own experiences and obviously just speaking to other people, man.
So obviously it's a very unique business, and obviously 10 years ago a scholarship agency wasn't as well known, as prevalent. Like not a lot of people starting that sort of business. So how did you go about forging a network that allowed you to kind of build Soccer Assist and then go on to Varsity 9?
Yeah, good question, man. So like at the beginning it was difficult, man. Obviously I've hardly got any facial hair, as you can see. So like imagine me when we started the business, I was what? I think 19, 20?
Yeah.
21, I can't remember now. My maths is all over the place.
You was young, yeah.
I was young,
20, yeah.
Baby face. So I remember like going into like meetings with like colleges where, you're dealing with people obviously that are typically like mid-30s upwards, right? And then you're saying to them, well, I'm going to be helping to guide your students that are leaving your program to go over to the US. Like a lot of times we got almost like laughed out of room. So it was very, very tough to get started. But I felt for me that just built up mad resilience, because like I knew if we can get over this initial hurdle, the players part was always going to be the easiest bit, because we can relate to them. We had a lot of passion, we wanted to work hard on their behalf. It was obviously just getting through those gatekeepers. But I think as the emergence of social media, obviously that helped massively, because that eliminated those gatekeepers. And then in time, obviously, the word starts to spread, you help more people, they tell their friends, and there's almost like that network effect, do you know what I mean? But I'm not gonna lie, the first couple of years were difficult to initially like do the offline stuff.
Yeah.
Going into the schools, clubs, etc. Because as I said, it was met with a lot of like friction to begin with. But yeah, we're here now, man.
So that's how you forged your network locally, but then also being a scholarship agency, you're abroad, so you're in America. So how did you build relationships with coaches abroad, like in Chicago and all these places? Yeah,
good question. So I remember it like it was yesterday, man. Like when we first had our first like cohort of athletes that we signed up to go over to America for the following year. It's like, well, look, you've got these players now, you have to find them somewhere. So I remember it was just a case of picking up the phone, going through like a huge directory of universities and just like cold calling and just literally trying to sell them every player that we had. It was a bit like Wolf of Wall Street kind of style. You obviously go to your network as well from people that you may have played with, coaches for introductions and stuff like that. But initially, like the first round of placements was just hard yards, literally just picking up the phone, making networks and just like trying your best to fulfill a space for your player. And unfortunately, you know, we had a lot of offers for the players that we were working with. And then the next step after that was like, all right, how can you put a better structure? How can you put a better process in place? So you can obviously continue to do this year on year and obviously look to improve. But yeah, that was all it took, man. Like just like hard yards, picking up the phone and like just working hard for the player pretty much, man.
So you mentioned leveraging your existing network. So where did you go when you went on your scholarship and what was the result of that?
So I initially went over, I started off at a junior college. So for those of you who don't know what a junior college is, it's like a 2-year program. If you're relating it to the UK, it's probably like a foundation degree, right? So I've done a year at a junior college. After that year, I then transferred to a university in West Virginia where I spent 2 years, had a really good program, so it was quite successful. And then off the back of that, like I had a lot of opportunities, but for me, I was always about trying to go pro through the route. And unfortunately, I was offered the opportunity to go over to Scandinavia, so I moved across to Sweden and I played there. And yeah, it was just an eye-opening experience. I felt like it was the next step in my career. And then I think after playing professionally abroad and stuff, for me, I just felt like it was a box ticked. But it's funny enough, like I saw a lot of players who was like towards the end of their careers, who were bouncing around on 1-year contracts. And for me, like that just wasn't where I could see my future. Because I think I was honest enough to know that I weren't going to be like a Premier League player or anything like that. I probably could have made a decent living out of it, but realistically, for what I wanted for my life at that time, I was just seeing guys, as I said, who were like 29, 30, and they were still was just trying to like hanging on to contracts. And like 1 year you're in this country, and next year you're in another, country. So that wasn't what I wanted, and that's why I then gravitated to my second passion, which was business. And obviously, I'm fortunate enough that I can tie both in together with the game that I love, and obviously what I also love with entrepreneurship, man.
Yeah. So would it be fair to say you saw more money in business as opposed to like your football career at the time?
Yeah, I think how I justified it in my mind was like, with football, right, there's two things. One, I felt like you're not in control of your destiny, firstly, because you're at the mercy of the manager. If a new gaffer comes in, the whole squad could change, right? And then two, I felt that for you to be earning like, the top percentage of earners, it matches up with the skill level. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And if I'm not going to be in that bracket, in business, it's a lot easier for you to achieve that. You don't necessarily need to be, top 5% in terms of if you're looking at business overall. Yeah. You could just do really well in your field and you can actually benefit from it. And it doesn't require any like special talent, I don't feel. I just feel like if you apply yourself, you put in hard yards, it's something that's a lot more achievable for it. And it's something that's also a lot more sustainable longer term. So that was why I was like kind of gravitating towards business, because just naturally it's something that I just like enjoyed, and I like the challenge of it.
You studied business when you was at Virginia, right? Yeah. So what transferable skills do you think you got from not just studying, but also your experience in America that you brought to your business to allow you to be successful?
So I think the big thing what comes from like being a student athlete is like you gain resilience, you gain independence. You have to be someone that is disciplined, because you're talking about waking up 6 a.m. runs with a team, weightlifting sessions, traveling long distances and stuff like that. Now, like anyone that's played sport to a relatively decent level will know there's a lot of things that you can take from it, like dealing with like poor performance, having to kind of brush it off and get ready for the next game kind of thing. But I think beyond that, it's more so as well like the people you meet in America. Obviously I was in 2 different locations, Seattle, where it's quite diverse, like big city, lots of things happening, to then being in West Virginia, where you're meeting people and like they haven't come across people from certain cultures or backgrounds before. Do you know what I mean? So you're then having to understand how they view the world and stuff like that, and you then know how to deal with people. And I think that was like massive for what we do. It's all about communication, all about relationships, all about understanding people, what makes them tick. And like that was like a massive wake-up call, because as I said, I'm meeting people who have certain views, and I can't really like I can't fault them for it, but it's just like, that's just not how I see things, you know what I mean? And you just have to navigate those experiences as well as you can, really, man.
So you've come back from America, you've gone to Sweden. What happened after Sweden? What was your career? Did you come back and start soccer assist straight after that?
Yeah, so I came back and I remember like, I got off the plane in October, and then I just said to my friends like, look, this is what I'm gonna do. I spoke to Junior. He was still at university at this time.
Okay.
So like, it was a whole crazy operation, but it was like, look, let's just basically, let's launch this thing, let's see what we can do. So I got back in October. We built the website from scratch, done all the marketing, all that stuff. I remember I borrowed some football kits off someone that I knew. It was proper scrappy. And then just through sheer demand, when we put it out there, like by December, we had to run our first event, and it was very much well received. You know, we signed up our first cohort of players off the back of that event, and then that was where we just kick-started the operation. Then, so that was in 2017, and then for the next 2 years, we was continuing to build the agency. I then went to work full-time for about a year or so whilst working on it on the back end. And Junior was obviously finishing up with university, and the plan was, you know, as soon as he graduates, we could jump in as full-time, and then like we just kind of see what we can do. He graduated in December 2018. We went full-time in January 19, and then yeah, it was just like the rest is history, man.
Where are we currently? Where's your office based?
So we're based in Milton Keynes, and obviously I know you asked why are we up here. To be fair, I asked myself that before. But it's central to England. Obviously, we service the whole of the UK. So like, if we're doing events or like presentations, etc., like MK is very central. To get to Manchester on the train, it's an hour and 45. Birmingham, hour and 20. London, 40 minutes on the train. I mean, it's pretty good in terms of like connecting everything. And in terms of our operations, so obviously we have the scholarship part of the agency. We also have an academy which is based in Dunstable, down the road from here. And obviously we recently became custodians of a football club, AFC Dunstable, that competes.
What's a custodian?
So custodian, like we're owners of it basically.
Okay.
So I've got to use that.
You own a football club?
Yeah, but I have to use that word now.
Soccer assist, Varsity 9,
And
owner
AFC.
of a football club.
Yeah, so
in 10 years?
Yeah, it's all mad right now.
You've done a lot of stuff.
I have, to be fair, but it's not just obviously off my own back.
100% cool, but Junior's not here. Junior's
Junior. I can't take all the credit.
Let's take a look around the office to give people a bit of an insight and a visual idea of what the company's like. So, looking around your office now, this place isn't cheap. So, what does your operation look like at the moment? I think you mentioned to me you've got 20 staff, and then is that inclusive of yourself or no?
Yeah, so 20 including myself.
Okay.
So the different divisions in the company, we've got the scholarship side, which is obviously our longest standing piece to the puzzle, you could say. We have the football education program, so those are students that are aged between 16 to 19, where they would study alongside playing football full time. So we've got about 100 students on that. We have international students that fill into that program as well. So we've got players from the Caribbean, Africa, other parts of Europe, all like in the program at the moment. We've got the football club, so AFC Dunstable, which competes at step 4 in a non-league pyramid, so obviously a really respectable level. And then we've recently just launched the pro agency piece. So this is where we're going to be working with players that are either going to be coming out of the US or looking at taking their first steps into the pro game.
How's your role developed since starting? Because I met your operations manager.
Yeah.
She's not cheap.
Managing director.
Oh, manager. Oh, sorry, bro. My apologies, bro. So what's your role?
If I don't say that.
What's your role?
So my role now is more so like I oversee all of the recruitment. So recruitment director is kind of like what my term.
Is that recruitment of staff? Is that recruitment of players? Is that
players? So I deal with like, it's basically like sales. Do you know what I mean? It's like a sales-based approach. So I oversee the recruitment team, that whole function of our agency. New business partnerships. Obviously, we do a lot of stuff internationally as well. So I don't mind getting my passport out and taking the short straw of going on those trips.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's what my role pretty much entails, man. So like a little bit of like anything kind of like new business, like partnerships, like getting things started, like sales. That's the stuff that kind of gets me out of bed. I like making things happen. I like feeling like, do you know what I mean, I'm working towards a goal. I feel like that's probably just like the sports person in me. To run an operation that we run, you need people that are adaptable, people that can that obviously want to work in a space and ultimately want to do right for the clients and the customers. It's not easy, but it's something that is continuously like trying to. We always just continuously trying to make sure that we get right, and we always review it. Have we got the right people in the right seats? The question that we always ask ourselves, and this is something that I use personally when I'm trying to make decisions, is like, what would Pep do? What would Pep Guardiola do? High performance, he's like the best at it when it comes to the best team in the world. And how does he get consistency out of his team like year in, year out? So it's like, what would Pep do? That's a question that we ask ourselves and then try and figure out the answer off the back of that, man.
Okay. So you've got 20 members of staff, including yourself and Junior, right? So who are the other 18 members? So you've got managing director, so 17. So what's the other?
Yeah.
What did you see was important?
So we've got obviously a marketing department, we've got a recruitment team, we've got operations staff, we've got a placement team, so they deal with actually placing the athletes into the US, etc.
Yeah.
And we've also got the football education program team, so the coaches and the academy staff, you could say. So that's pretty much covers the depth of what we do. Where we are quite fortunate is that, for example, with our football club, our academy coaches are also the first team managers. So that also creates that continuity from like, if you come to our program at 16, 17, you can see a pathway into the first team because you're training with them in the daytime and then as well as in the evenings, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just try and stretch our people, give them as much opportunity, and at the same time I think it's an exciting role to be in it because, for example, in November, a lot of the teams, some are going to Dubai, some are going to Melbourne, some are going to the US, so they get little experiences like that as part of the job as well. I feel like you're quite fortunate if you can work in sport or in football, if it's something you're passionate about. So yeah, man, that's how we try and incentivize the team as well, man.
That makes sense. So how do you scale this now? So obviously you've done a great job of that so far. So what's the next steps for Soccer Assist, for Varsity 9, for Dunstable?
Yeah, so I think in terms of like how you continuously like look to push, that's through like Varsity 9, the evolution of multi-sports. So as I mentioned about the track and field and golf, etc., with the development of the new sports that we have, growing those numbers of athletes that we're working with and placing into universities. We want to start doing like university tours as well, so when they actually visit the UK, being responsible for that, because we've done tours on the other side in terms of bringing players to play, whether it's in France. I know you came to Paris with us.
Yeah, I came to Paris, yeah.
So like whether it's Paris or if we go to the US and stuff like that. And then it's going to be also the pro stuff that we do. Obviously that's where the next level of growth is for us. The way I look at football is like it depends on what entry point you want to enter in that football.
Okay.
So like, for example, right, you've got, and this is not to knock anyone or anything like that, but in terms of like, you would say, if you're looking at the grand scheme of how much money is like in football,
yeah,
the lower level stuff, you're going to talk about like being like a coach on the front line, right?
Yeah.
Because you would say like if you're looking at the jobs in coaching, there's obviously a limited amount of jobs and it's quite difficult. That's why you're seeing the emergence of people that are one-to-one coaches where they can kind of control their own destiny and obviously they can make as much money as they can facilitate basically, right?
Yeah.
So there's that side that you can enter in. There's obviously what we do, which is a bit more niche in the middle. There's a consultancy piece. There's agents, and obviously agents can span from really big agents where they're making millions per year to obviously more smaller agents where they're just kind of finding their feet. And then there's obviously commercial roles within football clubs, because obviously they're big entities. Whether that's in like the commercial team, the marketing side, whether it's in the performance side. There's obviously multiple different kind of ways that you can enter into sport,
okay,
or into football specifically. Sorry. So I think personally, you've got to look within yourself as to like, one, like what is your, like what are you trying to earn? Because if you're saying to yourself, the aspiration is to be a millionaire, for example,
yeah,
then the likelihood of becoming a millionaire as a coach within a football club, for example, is going to be a lot more slimmer. Versus if you're looking at to going into being an agent or maybe going into a commercial role where eventually you can work your way up to like being like a sporting director or something like that, right? So yeah, you've got to kind of figure out like what you're looking for from it.
So what does it take to buy a football club? What is it?
Yeah.
What do I have to do? Can I go on Gumtree? Can I go on eBay? Like, what sort of rooms do I have to be in? Is there a certain amount of capital I have to invest in the club? Do I have to sign up to some long-term plan to rebuild a stadium? How does it work?
So I can't comment on like all clubs, especially like the professional level. I can obviously talk.
If you had to generalize, I guess,
our
like
experience, right?
yeah.
So like our experience was quite fortunate. It was a random night on Twitter, or X.
Twitter.
Yeah, random night on X,
Okay.
where we saw the football club was being offered out for free, effectively. They were looking for someone to take it over.
You wasn't given a football club, surely not.
Well, you have to be in it to win it. Do you know what I mean? Opportunity dances those on the dance floor. So as I said, it was a random one.
Yeah.
We saw it, and it was just fortunate that, like, basically, I want to say maybe like a month or two prior to that, we started looking into the process of, like, you know, it's one of these ones where it's like, it would be good to have a football club. Yeah, but it was like, where's that going to kind of come from? And then randomly, it kind of fell on our lap.
Okay.
So we went in, there's a pitch process. They had other organisations or, you can say organisations and people that were putting their name in the hat in terms of like what they wanted to do with the club. So we went in, pitched, saw our idea. The thing that made it quite our advantage was that we had the whole system around it in terms of the academy program. Our network in football is like, in locally especially, like is really good. So it was almost like you can plug it into what we're doing and then like it will just tick straight away.
Okay.
From there, you obviously go through all your financial checks. You got to check understand the status of the club. Financially, what's the whole? Because I know some people say football clubs can turn a billionaire to a millionaire and a millionaire to a poor person. So like you got to obviously make sure you do your due diligence on from a financial side of things. A football club is a business, and it has to be run exactly the same how you'd run your business or I'd run my business, right? You can't just say, all right, it's a football club. It has to be different. So when you're setting things such as like registration fees or gate prices, so yeah, you need to make sure you leave the club in a better place than you found it. But it's also getting a local community behind it. Obviously, football clubs are nothing without their volunteers and a local community. So it's important to obviously make them feel part of the journey. And then you need to also like figure out what is your USP or your identity. For us, it was very clear. We are going to play a very modern style, attacking, fast-flowing football, but we also wanted to focus on just youth. So average age of our first team last year was 19. So it's unheard of in our division in non-league football to begin with in terms of that at that level. And we had a very successful first season. We made it to the playoffs. We just missed out on getting promoted. We made it to the League Cup final where we played it at Luton Town Stadium, Kenilworth Road, and a lot of our players ended up moving on. So some have gone over to top universities on full scholarships, some went over to in Australia, other players have moved up the league. So like it's proven that what we set out has been achieved, and obviously now it's about continuously just trying to repeat that. Basically, cut a long story short, our plan is to try and be the Brighton of non-league.
Okay.
All right, so produce players that people wouldn't have looked at, come into our system, we develop them, and then obviously we move them on.
Okay.
We're not the end result, basically.
Okay, so taking it back to soccer assist now, you've had a lot of success stories.
Yeah.
I think a few of the players I played with, I think one of them gone to the MLS, Junior.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've had a lot of success, especially for the players. So you mentioned IMG Academy to me. So for the people at home that don't know what IMG Academy is, can you explain what they are and how does soccer assist compare and where are you trying to go with that?
So IMG Academy is, I don't even know how to explain them. Like it's pretty like they're a massive company. So IMG is big. They have a massive sports facility or sports facilities. I think they've got one in California and they also have one in Florida. So people go to IMG and do a range of different sports, whether it's soccer, hockey, tennis, golf, etc. For us, like that's almost like the blueprint and they set the standard of like excellence in terms of across everything that they do, and there's nothing like that in the UK. So for us, the plan is to create all of the services, which we've done that now, and it's about achieving certain goals over the next few years, and then see if someone wants to write us a check to build a facility, and then we can take the next step of being the IMG Academy of the UK, and then see where we can go with it, man. So I think obviously from us as an agency, the journey has been quite interesting because I felt like I've grown up with the company, if that makes sense. Because everything that I know now has just pretty much kind of come through the experiences that I've had through Soccer Assist and Varsity 9. So it's taught me a lot. And I think in terms of like, for people that are looking at entering the space of like sports agencies or I guess if you're looking at working in football to a similar degree that we're working in, there is definitely an opportunity for you to, I don't know, relatively earn a decent living. So like, you know, when we initially started off, the plan was just to be a scholarship agency. That weren't the, you know, we didn't have this grand vision of, you know, owning a football club and all the rest of it, but that kind of comes in time. And I think it just kind of comes with like being super ambitious and just trying to always kind of push the needle forward. Obviously, we're fortunate now that like I can be, I can look at it and say, well, do you know, we're now a 7-figure agency. You know, where we've.
What was that? Sorry. Can you just repeat that? You said 7-figure agency.
Yeah,
okay.
so we're now a 7-figure agency. Was able to, you know what I mean? So for me, that was like a massive thing.
Money man. Money man. 7 figures in 10 years, bro.
Yeah, so like we've been, you know, I'm fortunate that we've been able to get to this stage.
Yeah.
And like it's funny because like now I feel like we're in the game now, if that makes sense.
You've only just got in the game now?
Yeah, I do feel like that. In terms of like this last 10 years has been like a massive learning experience.
How old are you, by the way, for the
31,
viewers?
I had to just think about myself. I couldn't remember my age. So yeah, like it's been a massive learning experience in terms of like just the breadth of different situations and experiences that you kind of have to go through to get to this stage. And I feel like now, obviously, we've established ourselves in the marketplace, and we're trying to really kind of push the boat, trying to push the needle. So like it's about now, like, and for me, like this is why I don't really do any interviews or anything like that, because I just felt up until this point maybe that like we haven't done anything, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Because I felt like, you know what, like now at the situation that we're in, I can speak from almost a bit more of a qualified position, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? More so it was for myself, 'cause I didn't want to feel like these people that are on Instagram or YouTube preaching stuff that they haven't done.
Yeah.
But like now we're at this stage now, it's about, as I said, it's about building from this point and like continuously looking to push and just doing something bigger than I thought. Because 10 years ago, if you'd asked and said, you know what I mean, like you guys would be 7-figure agency, like I would have put your hand off for it. But like now it's like we've got bigger visions, and you know that's not all what it's about. There's obviously levels to it now. So yeah, man, it's just about trying to continuously evolve and push the needle forward, man.
So for players that want to be involved in Soccer Assist for the next 10 years, whether they're 16, 17, 18, or just falling out of an academy, for example, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So if you're interested in going over to the US on a scholarship, so you can contact us at Soccer Assist. So if you type that into Google, Instagram, TikTok, whatever platform you're kind of most familiar with, you know, we'll come up on there. We're very active. For players that are, you know, maybe looking at continuing to play but not necessarily interested in the education piece, then reach us at Varsity 9 again across all platforms. We've got many opportunities in the US, Australia, Dubai, etc. And then yeah, if you're someone that's looking at wants to get out of the house on a weekend and watch some good football, then come down on the M1 down to AFC Dunstable. You'll be very much entertained, I can guarantee you that.